Hey, thanks for joining me. I've had these books for a minute. I've only got issues one, three, and four. Somehow I missed issue two. I thought I had them all, but I can't find it. And so I've been holding on to them for a while, hoping I'd run across issue two, and I haven't. And I'm just, whatever. We're going to show it. Mainly because talking about artist Joshua Middleton. This guy, I don't know where he got his start, but for me, his work just kind of just suddenly seemed to come out of nowhere. Whenever this was, this is like November of 2005, so this is obviously quite a while ago. I don't know where I saw his stuff first. Didn't he draw a series, that X-Men series with wasn't it Wolverine's daughter, X-23, in a book called NYX or something like that? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? But a very open line, cartoony, animated drawing style that heavily relies on coloring to do the finishing rather than rendering on the pencil or inking stage, if that makes sense. Very animated looking. It's very much the opposite of stuff that I was kind of into for a long time. I was into the heavy rendering styles of the Image Comics guys, the Jim Lees and Silvestris and Stephen Platts and all the crazy line work and ink work. And I still am, honestly. That's kind of where my main interests lie. But certain artists can do certain things that just look freaking incredible. And it just fits a story perfectly. And I can't tell you much about this story. I have read it, but it's been a while, and I don't know. I wasn't really particularly interested in rereading the story, especially if I'm missing an entire issue. It's more of just like taking this artist work and looking at how unbelievably good he is. Because when you have an open line style, meaning just the basic rendering drawing lines, you're not hiding, or you're not drawing in an art style that lets you hide your deficiencies with heavy shadows or blacking something out. You have to render everything, and it has to look perfect, and you have to be just that much better, or your flaws stand out. And I don't know how long Joshua Middleton was drawing at this point. Again, it said 2005 on the cover. He's clearly so good at this point. I wonder what he looked like when he got started, and I assume, is he still out there drawing? I honestly don't know. It's fantastic. And then again, the use of color to draw or to render in the heavy shadows, it looks like kind of like a cartoon thing, like an animation. And it looks great. Like the folds in the guy's outfit, the beard, the wrinkles on his face as an old man. This is the Shazam, the wizard that gives the character, because this is Superman, Shazam, First Thunder. This is talking about we're entering the second age of the great heroes. It is before the coming of the Amazon, the Speedster, and the Space Knight. So that's all kind of fun. All right, I like what they're going with this. I'm not going to spend too much time at all on the story, but there is kind of an element towards the end that I'm like, oh, just the perfect scene. It gets you right in the feels. And when Superman is being who Superman is supposed to be, I'm like, oh, it's there's a reason why I think Superman's, you don't need me to say he's one of the greatest characters ever created, because he's just an iconic character that everyone knows. And he's hard to write because he's so powerful. Whatever. Anyway, I love Superman. I say that as a guy who doesn't read Superman comics, but just the idea, the movies I've seen, there's some books I've read that have been fantastic, but just in general, I don't read Superman comics, but I love the character. Same with Batman. The text here says, it's been less than 1 year since the criminals of the city of Gotham began to tell stories of a winged creature, just as Metropolis has found itself under the protection of a brightly clad guardian. So I like the idea, like they just said in the first page, like this story is set in the early era where it's before Wonder Woman showed up, before Flash, before Green Lantern, and Batman and Superman have just barely arrived on the scene. And it's kind of like, when these characters first showed up, we're talking like this was like in the 40s or something like that. But this version of these characters, it feels like it's more modern times. So you could just kind of have to just reconcile the fact that these are corporate characters that kind of are ageless, and you kind of have to keep moving through the future. And if you're going to go back in time to show their beginnings, you can't go back to the 40s because Batman would age out. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, like, just deal with it. But anyway, just fantastic art, cityscapes, like this Josh Middleton. It says that he does everything. And where are the credits page? Here. So Judd Winnick, I think that's how you say his name, writer. I know the name, but don't know much about his work. But Joshua Middleton, artist. So meaning pencils, inks, colors. Somebody correct me. Does it this? I'm guessing this is digital. I mean, the coloring clearly is, but could you be drawing in digital when this come out? And when did this come out? This is 2005. Right. Did the ability to draw digitally, did that exist? Or is this him drawing traditionally and scanning it and computer? I'm curious. I just get the feeling if I were to see this today, I'd be like, this guy's drawing digitally. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm personally a bigger fan of hand-drawn stuff. Just I like to see physical pencil and ink on paper. But either way, like, just his ability, he can draw. He's one of these artists who can draw anything. There's some artists out there that are very popular and can draw very, very little. They can only exist in this little box that they live in and can't do anything else. But when you run into these really true talented guys who can draw cityscapes and backgrounds and muscular figures and darkly lit figures like Batman and brightly lit characters like Superman and just regular civilian people of all body types, this airplane's falling out of the sky. It's about to crush some people, and the plane just stops mid-air. And there is Shazam, right? Or, I mean, is it Captain Marvel? Or is it Shazam? I mean, yeah, Captain Marvel. And that's another character I don't know that much about. I've actually seen both of the movies, and I actually thought they were pretty good. I enjoyed them. And then I've read Kingdom Come, which is my first exposure to any kind of backstory of the character that explained to me what he was about. So I get it. He's a kid given the powers of all these gods that give him basically Superman-like powers. But the twist on the concept is that it's like however old he is, 10, 11, 12, whatever. He's just a kid with the powers of Superman. So he's got a lot to learn. So here he is showing up, saving people. That's awesome. And then the wizard is watching, and, this is his fate. This is what he's supposed to be doing. Again, look at the gestures on the hands. It's very like, what's that actor that played the White Wizard in the Lord of the Rings? Saruman. I can't remember the name of the actor. He played the evil Jedi. Anyway, with the expressive hands kind of going on. Really neat. And then, we get into the story. I'm not going to get into that, but just fantastic drawing all over the place. Look at Superman stopping these criminals from robbing this museum. I like the fact that we don't have a giant zoomed in, muscular, badass, heavy rendered shot of Superman when we see him for the first time. It's a giant panel, and it's framed in the doorway, so the shot is big. But Superman is small, but he's still powerful. There's something to be said about being able to do that, how Superman's effortlessly, casually, it almost looks like he's walking with the gestures on his feet, like he's walking through the air. He's just floating around. He's stopping these guys. He's not afraid of them at all. That's a big ad for The Corpse Bride. I still never seen that movie because it could never possibly compare to The Nightmare Before Christmas. But anyway, these bad guys have magic staffs and clack them on the ground and generate some weird otherworldly monsters. Now Superman's got to fight those things. Again, the coloring is doing so much here. And again, it's Middleton, according to the credits, right? He's doing all the art, including the coloring. And, the text is saying, like, these things are really strong, so he's having a hard time fighting them off. But this, the coloring, when the artist gets to make all these choices on his own. The drawing is just such a simple open line thing. And again, you can't hide your anatomical human figure drawing deficiencies when you draw like this. It's all on display. And he's got a really solid way of doing it. It looks so good. All of this stuff, I think, it just looks like still shots from a really high quality cartoon. And he's acknowledging that wherever these creatures come from, it was magic. And if you know, one of the things Superman struggles with is magic. Magic can actually mess with Superman. Another cut to a scene where Shazam is on site with these giant robotic kind of Iron Giant looking things. He's fighting them. And just great action shots, giant mechanical robots in the, it's like old school kind of like 50s robot. Like I said, the Iron Giant is kind of a gag, but that's kind of what they look like from a design perspective. Very similar to that. Look at this shot. Another one where it's like the superheroic figure is tiny, but the panel is big and the thing that he's fighting against is massive. So it helps convey the idea of how strong he is, even if he's a small figure, because he's stomping the giant monstrous robot foot. It's a really interesting artistic technique that he does. Great shots of him just ripping these things apart. Great tech, great action. One of these robot monsters tosses a truck, so he has to catch it. He throws the truck back, and it hits the robot, blows up, so he keeps tearing them apart. Great action. And then he stops and he's talking with I don't remember who this guy is. Anyway, don't really care. But then we go back to, and of course, Billy Batson. He, goes back into being just a kid. And he's talking with one of his best friends here, and they're just kind of back and forth about what just went on. Getting into the characterization of how he's a kid. And Billy Batson, he's kind of, his buddy's kind of trying to caution him to be careful, but, you got to be careful. And Batson's like, all I have to do is say one word. I've got all these powers. He's kind of like treading into dangerous waters where he's not being as cautious as he should because he thinks because he has these powers, but he's not worried about getting hurt because no one can stop him because he's so powerful, which is a life lesson for all of us. Anyway, bad guy stuff, bad guy conversations, whatever the hell's going on. So here, Billy Batson, he's there. He transforms into himself. So there's a big, awesome shot. It looks great. And more bad guys. He interacts with them. And monsters get created. So he's going to have to fight them off. But these monsters beat the shit out of him. Like, send him flying away. And he hits the ground, and then as he's picking his ass up, you hear a voice that says, "You okay there? Looks like you could use a hand." There's Superman. And that's so, it almost gives me chills, the idea. So Billy Batson, just a kid, got the power of essentially Superman. It's the same kind of power set, really. And these characters have never met. And this is the kind of like a version of, this is the first time they meet. Superman is awesome. He's such a good guy. He's like, hey, and you know what? I don't have issue 2, but I would like to think that these two do not get in a fist fight. Somebody, if you've got issue 2, you could tell me. But the idea is like, I bet you these two are instant friends. They should be. But it's just kind of like, oh, that's just, I love it. I love Superman. I love the optimism and the bright and joy that Superman is and should always be. So again, I don't have issue 2. So just getting into issue 3. Great coloring, kind of a lot of the same thing, right? Great art. Gonna kind of skip through. You kind of see everything that's going on in terms of art. It's all the same. It's a little bit darker in this one. I wonder if it's just because the scene calls for it. That's kind of a fun shot of whoever the hell this guy is. They just say magic. Is that his name? Feel the awesome might of the underworld. I like this. Yeah, the bad guy says, feel the awesome might of the underworld. So Superman and Shazam pick him up and fly him out of there. And Shazam says, why do they always talk like that? And Superman says, I was just going to ask you the same thing. But in the meantime, let's take him out of downtown. So again, they're like, we're going to take this bad guy and get out of the city so we don't cause any damage, Man of Steel. But the monster breathes fire on him and he gets away. And he's like, he can breathe fire and he flies. We're going to have to watch that. And he's like, I'll say. So, again, it's cute. Maybe not, it's like the best term to use, but I like how they're both kind of on the same page. They're both heroes. They're both good guys, but one of them is a man and one of them is a kid. And I think the concept here is that Superman does not know that Shazam is actually a child yet. But I like how they're like, oh my God, we're going to have to be careful with that. Like, I'll say. And I just love the idea of these two just flying off to go kick monster ass. They're such good guys. So there's Eclipso. I know nothing about the character except that he exists. He's doing whatever kind of evil shit. Is it magic based? So that's kind of rough for both of them. God, these spikes shoot down and start stabbing people. That's pretty horrifying. And that would be something to kind of get into with the Shazam character, Captain Marvel. Is a kid thinks having all these powers is fun and games until he sees some truly horrifying stuff. And when you're getting into situations where there's human casualties, you're going to see some horrifying stuff. It could really warp a kid. It could really fuck him up, which is what makes the character interesting if it's written correctly. But yeah, they keep fighting all these creatures. There's magic. It's a little bit of a struggle. Shazam, Captain Marvel, whatever. Captain Marvel, he says, he calls this guy a demonic force-wielding butt troll. Then he gets head-butted and kicked into the ground. And the bad guy's like giving him some shit. He's like talking a big... He's talking a bunch of evil bad guy nonsense. He says, you don't know who you face. So the bad guy goes on a megalomaniacal rant. You will know who I am, cheap god spawn. You will know who brings you your death. I am your opposite. I am the shadow that falls across your light. I am the darkness that eclipses this day, the power from below. I am the evil, I am the instrument of evil, the conduit of the underworld's acquisition of this small realm. I am the right hand of every entity, every lord of darkness that fills my name. And so Captain Marvel fills my name? Thought so. Thanks. Punches him. That's all I needed. So he's just kind of listening to this guy go on this bullshit rant and it just slugs him. And Superman's here fighting. It looks like a bunch of humans are probably under mind control, so Superman has to carefully get them off him. So he's just like blowing them with the super breath carefully. And he kind of escapes the situation. More magic going on. So again, that's something that would be a struggle for Superman. Just kind of zipping through this. You kind of get the idea. There's troubles. There's problems to solve. People being possessed, but then they get freed from it. They stop Eclipso. Captain Marvel's up here, still beating the shit out of this guy, fighting back and forth. Captain Marvel puts his cape over his head and wraps the cord around his neck. The guy just blows it off with his fire breath. His Lord Sabak. Sabak, powers of Satan. Aym, Belial, Beelzebub, Asmodeus, and create kind of like a Shazam thing. I didn't know that. This is the first time I've ever... I don't know who that character is, but that's interesting. He has to say his name, and his power is kind of like Captain Marvel, poof, and gone, and so the dude just falls. Interesting. I don't know who that character is. But of course, he gets saved, because these are heroes. So Superman and Captain Marvel are kind of talking back and forth, and so Superman's like, where's that guy that you were fighting? And Captain Marvel says, you wouldn't understand. Superman says, try me. So Captain Marvel says, he's imprisoned inside the shadow's aura of the Rock of Eternity. And Superman says, yeah, you're right. I don't understand. So he's like, sorry. So Superman says, it's okay, it's your world, your province. I suppose I'll feel a lot better about this realm of magic or mysticism, well, knowing that you're guarding the gate. So Captain Marvel says, thanks, see you soon. And Superman says, I'd like that very much. Again, I love that they're friends. I love that these guys like each other. Like, when is the last time you saw a fucking comic book where two heroes met and they just clicked and they just got along and they're on the same side and they're happy and proud to know each other and they just get along? It's just joyful. Superman says, and if you need help replacing the cape, just say the word. And Captain Marvel says, thanks. Anyway, but all I have to do is say the word and I've got a new one. And Superman says, I don't understand. And Captain Marvel says, I'll tell you about it sometime. And Superman says, I'd like that as well. So again, they're just getting along. It's heartwarming. It's fun. And so now we get back to the, they're back with Captain Marvel. He's back as a kid talking with his best friend. And so the friend says, geez, man, you made it sound like you wanted to go to the movies with him or something. I would go to the movies with Superman. Are you kidding? So he's like, shut up, Scott. He's like, no, seriously, you hit the big time. You're kicking 9 kinds of super bad guy butt alongside Superman, and you go all wussy. And so Billy's like, man, you're just jealous because I'm rolling with Superman. He's like, did you just say rolling with Superman? I hope the whitest kid in Fawcett City did not spit out that he was rolling with Superman. It would be too painful. Billy's like, yeah, you're just jealous. I'm a superhero with super friends. And so he's like, yeah, you're a dork who lives in a stank hole subway. So again, they're just kind of like funny, like young kids giving each other shit. I appreciate that. And so they're buddies, they're talking, and then wait, oh shit, some bad guys show up, soldiers, and they open fire on the freaking kids. Like, they end this comic, issue 3, with machine gun fire at kids. I'm like, oh shit, all right, where's this gonna go? Issue 4. The Vengeance of Magic, Cap Goes Wild. So there's, I almost said fucking Peter Parker. Good Lord. Clark Kent. He's at the Daily Planet. There's Lois. They're talking. Soldiers. So we pick up where the last comic ended. And you kind of knew what was going to happen. With the kid, he just says Shazam. Boom. Turns into Captain Marvel. Deflects the bullets. Pretty awesome. But trying to get to the end of this, to get to the point of the story that's, it's kind of building to it. Kind of takes an interesting, kind of dramatic turn by the end. But Captain Marvel takes out all these soldiers. Great art, as always. Looks great. But amidst all of this, the bullets are flying. He turns into Captain Marvel. He deflects the bullets. And he's like, oh, you guys are so stupid. You just made the biggest mistake of your lives. Yeah, he's joking with him. He's like, I almost felt that. I'm being gentle with you guys. And they keep unloading their machine guns onto him. It's not affecting him. Soldiers are trying to get away. He knocks him out. He's like, easy. He's like, bunch of jerks. And he's sitting there. He says, some fun, huh, Scott? Looks like you're going to get your wish. I'm going to have to leave this subway. Scott, you still there, or did you take off? Are you running? Did you go? Where are you? His buddy. Buddy's sitting there fucking shot. And yeah, it doesn't say. He could be dead or he could just be in shock. It doesn't tell you. But this is where the story suddenly takes like oh my God, like I was saying, you are a superhero and you're a kid. You think it's just fun to get out there and punch bad guys. Eventually, you're going to run into the horribleness that is humanity. The worst kind of stuff that's possible. And stray bullets shot the kid down. And so we jump over to, there's a hospital, and he shows up, and he's just got this panic look on his face. He's like, I need help. Somebody help me. Oh, my God. Help me, please. So a bunch of doctors are working on the kid. And time passes. There's a clock on the wall, and the clock keeps going around like a lot of time has passed. And eventually the lights go out, and the blanket is pulled over the kid. The kid fucking died. And it's like, oh, shit. Suddenly this comic, to the writer's credit, interjects this horrible thing. And I just got done reviewing a comic. I don't need to bring it up, but I was just talking about this comic where they were doing like bad girl stuff, like hot half naked girls in gratuitous poses. Meanwhile, they're interjecting story points that are really like real world horrifying stuff, like a girl getting assaulted by her father in her bed at night, repeated. Like it's horrible stuff. And the balance of that type of shit does not work in this book. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Liefeld does not have the ability to write that story. But this guy, he starts it out, it's lighthearted, the kid's having fun, he's got his buddy, and in the middle of a battle, a stray bullet catches his buddy, and he's dead. And how does this get, it probably said somewhere, I'm not sure how old Billy Batson's supposed to be, like somewhere between 10 and 14, something, you know? Young, not able to deal with this kind of shit. And they're like, holy shit, the kid's dead. Cops are interviewing one of the soldiers that was there. And Billy, as Captain Marvel, he's pissed. He's stomping through. So now you got a kid with the power of Superman, basically the power of an unstoppable god. And he's pissed. And this is where self-control comes in. And this is why a child should never have these powers. Stomps into the room, sends the table flying, holding the guy down. And so he's like, who the hell hired you? Tell me now, or I'll crush your head. Tell me right now. Tell me right now, or I'll crush your head. Then I'll walk downstairs to the holding cells and ask your partners and bring your dead, headless body with me. And then they'll tell me for the last time who hired you. So, holy shit, he's losing his mind. And again, a child doesn't know how to deal with this, and he might actually lose his shit. And so eventually, it doesn't say, but obviously the bad guy kind of tells him what he wants to know. There's Captain Marvel sitting outside the window, pummels the upper level of this skyscraper building, shattering the glass. And there's the bad guy. And Captain Marvel grabs him. He's like, bad guy's like, I'll give you anything. And Captain Marvel says, you don't have anything that I want except your life. Holding him up, bad guy saying, please don't. And Marvel says, don't what? Hurt you? Don't you understand, Doctor? That's all you've left me with. I'm trying to find some reason to let you live, but I can't. I know if you're going to go, you're just going to, if I let you go, you're just going to keep hurting and keep murdering people. And I'm not sure if I can live with that. So he's choking him out. The guy's drooling and going into unconsciousness, probably seconds away from death. And Captain Marvel stops and drops him. The guy's breathing heavily. And Captain Marvel's gone. He's out of there. And the bad guy's like, we're going to have to get out of town. We got to go. I got to get out of here. Holy shit, this is horrible. So now we get back with Clark and Lois, and they're like, holy shit, there is a story. Like, it's now in the news about how Captain Marvel attacked a police station and went on a rampage. And, it says, seems as Superman's new running buddy went off the reservation. And, of course, Clark is looking at this. He's like, okay, well, now I got to go get involved. So here's where we're Mount Everest, way up on the mountain. And I guess this is Superman's text. It says, there, at least he wasn't hiding. So Superman comes flying up to Marvel and says, sir, you're going to have to account for your actions. You attacked a police station, assaulted a prisoner. You destroyed the entire top floor of an office building. You crossed a line tonight and placed innocent civilians and law enforcement in danger. Like, Superman's chastising him because, again, Superman doesn't understand this is a fucking kid. And he sees Captain Marvel crying. Superman is a grown man. He's been through life. He's been through struggle. He's lived the lived experiences of life to let him understand things. A child doesn't get this. But Superman doesn't know that yet. So Captain Marvel's crying. He's like, I know, it's all my fault. Superman, I love it. He says, are you okay? Like, he cares about him. He sees this powerful superhero crying. And he'd done some things way outside of the realm of what he expected that he would do. And now he's like, so he approaches him with compassion. Are you okay? And Marvel says, no, I didn't mean to. I was so angry. I can't believe he's gone. And Superman's like, well, who? He's like, Scott. And he says, that was the boy you brought to the emergency room. And Marvel says, yeah, it's my fault. It's my fault that he got killed. Superman says, I'm sure you did everything that you could. And Marvel says, you don't understand. They went after me and they shot Scott. He was my best friend and now he's dead. I got my friend killed. And Superman's like, your best friend? This kid is your best friend? And so Marvel says, yeah, I guess that seems pretty weird. It's okay. Look, I'll show you. Stand back. And Superman's like, well, what? He says, Shazam, boom, bolt of lightning. And there's a fucking child standing in front of him. He says, my name's Billy Batson. And he says, but maybe it's too dangerous to be Billy Batson anymore. And Superman just looks down at him and he says, who did this to you? So this shit hits me in the feels because I love Superman. And again, he's a good guy and he kind of gets everything. He's seen it all. That's why he's the pinnacle of superheroes. Like, he's almost impossibly perfect, but that's the point. You know, he's chosen to be this good person that he is. And he's here to chastise. He's here to put this guy in his place. But he understands something is wrong. He's like, what's going on? And suddenly there's a kid standing in front of him. And Superman's like, oh my God, who did this to you? What the hell is this? So soon they're at the Rock of Eternity with the wizard Shazam. And the wizard says, you are here as a courtesy. I expect to reciprocate my generous, but like, he's like, yeah, you're lucky you're here, Superman. And Superman says, what have you done? And the wizard says, I followed the path. And Superman yells even louder, what have you done? The wizard says, I have bestowed the powers of the gods upon a mortal. It is my province to do so. Superman says, he's a little boy. You did this to a little boy. The wizard says he is more adept, more tenacious than any. And Superman interrupts. He's like, what is wrong with you? He's a child. His life shouldn't be about this. Little boys go to school, play with their friends, and go to bed at night. Their biggest concern should be homework and schoolyard crushes, not if their best friends are going to be murdered by assassins. The wizard says it is his fate to bear this mantle. So I love that Superman, everything he said is exactly correct. And I say this as a father. I got a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, and we all know how insane the world is right now. And I just want my poor boys to grow up in a world where they can do exactly what Superman talked about here. They need to play with their friends. They need to go to school. They need to do their homework. They need to play. They need to have fun and be children while they can, because the world's going to come along and suck the life out of them if they're not cautious and careful like it does the rest of us. And Superman says, do not talk to me about fate. All of you people of magic, you sorcerers, you all talk about fate and destiny. This is wrong. No boy should have the responsibility of the world on his shoulders. It is a fate chosen by men. He's just a boy. And the wizard says he is a boy who could use guidance. And Superman just kind of looks. And again, Superman stops and he sees the opportunity. So we go back to this dilapidated building where Billy stays. Superman, as Clark Kent, comes into the building. You know, there's homeless, drunk people. And up in this crappy building on this crappy mattress, there's Billy by himself. So Clark enters and he says, hi. And the kid, Billy, he doesn't know who Clark Kent is. And he's like, what do you want? And so Clark says, you actually live here? And Billy says, are you from social services? You know, because he's been in the kind of, you know, foster kid programs and it's not awesome. And Superman, Clark Kent, he says, no. And so Clark just undoes his tie and undoes his shirt so Billy could see it's Superman. And he just sits down next to him and says, my real name is Clark. The end. You know what? That shit hits me in the feelings. I love Superman. He's like, you know what? This situation exists. I guess Superman decided that he's not going to talk the wizard out of it. He can't undo it. But this poor fucking lonely child who's got his best friend just got murdered in front of him. He's got no family. He's got no guidance. He's got no help. He's just an orphan child in the world with the powers of a god. And Superman's like, I'm going to guide him. I'm going to help him. I'm going to be potentially a father figure to him, to guide this guy because he needs it. And that's where the story ends. We don't need any more. The story lets you imagine the possibilities of the future, which I don't know that this series ever continued. Like, it's just a 4-issue. Yeah, 4 of 4, it says on the cover. And I don't think that there were any more continuing stories based on this particular specific storyline that I'm aware of. And it doesn't need it. It almost just is better to just leave it right here on this beautiful, hopeful moment where they have interacted and the poor kid has seen some horrible shit. And what better person to guide Billy Batson as a child than Clark Kent's Superman? Like, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And so the writer, Judd Winnick, again, I don't know much about his work. If I've ever read anything else he's ever done, I don't know what it is. It's just this. But he hits all these perfect moments that just speak to the point of doing good, doing the right thing, and helping out people that really need it, and what a superhero should be, especially Superman. I love it. It's fantastic. So again, I wish I had issue 2. We get the point. We get the gist of everything. But great series. And the stuff that they get into, it's not I'm significantly less interested in the superheroes punching monsters and robots and demons and stuff like that. That's kind of like the fluff. The part of the story where it's like the characters interacting and being who they are and letting the characters bounce off of each other and seeing what happens. That's the magic of writing these characters, when you kind of get an idea of who they are and take one character that you understand and take another character that you understand and just put them together and see what would happen. And so your imagination starts going off in different directions. And oftentimes people want to have these characters fight each other, but these two don't fight. They get along great. But this poor kid experiences this horrible thing. And thank God Superman was there to kind of guide him and help him. And it's those human moments that I remember. I couldn't tell you anything about the punching and the fighting, but the human moments in this stuff, that's the stuff that sticks out and makes these characters something that you remember and you want to revisit and you grow to love. Excuse me. Anyway, it's a perfect example of how nonstop, pointless, brainless punching action doesn't mean a goddamn thing if you don't give a shit about the characters as like human beings with feelings and thoughts, and you have to establish all that stuff. Get your ducks in a row, and then you care about what they're punching and why, and you care if they win or you're upset when they lose. That's the fun of storytelling. Excuse me. That's all I've got for now. Pretty good stuff. So thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time.